Ambassador Veltar adjusted his crystalline collar as he reviewed the final evacuation reports. The last human transport had departed Earth 72 standard hours ago, their primitive fusion drives struggling against the planet's gravity. Well, the Galactic Confederation had spoken with one voice. Humanity was too dangerous, too unpredictable to remain among civilized species. "Good riddance," muttered Commander Zefok, his scaled hide glistening under the sterile lighting of the occupation headquarters. "Violent primitives with their weapons and their wars. The galaxy is safer without them." Veltar nodded absently, though something nagged at the back of his consciousness. The human representative, a weathered woman named Director Chen, had spoken strange words during the final negotiations. Not threats or pleas, but something that sounded almost like concern. "You don't understand what you're doing," she had said, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "We weren't here just to explore or expand. We were here to protect you, all of you." The Confederation had dismissed her words as typical human arrogance. After all, what could a species that had barely mastered interstellar travel possibly protect them from? The assembled races of the galaxy had technologies that dwarfed human achievements, fleets that numbered in the millions, and a collective wisdom spanning millennia. 3 months after humanity's departure, the first anomalies appeared. Deep, space monitoring stations in the outer rim began detecting gravitational disturbances, ripples in space-time that defied all known physics. The disturbances were subtle at first, barely registering on even the most sensitive instruments. The Confederation scientists dismissed them as instrumental errors or natural phenomena. Then the Kepler station went silent. The massive research facility, home to 12,000 of the galaxy's brightest minds, simply stopped transmitting. When the rescue fleet arrived, they found the station intact but empty. No signs of struggle, no bodies, no indication of what had happened to its inhabitants. The only clue was a series of deep gouges in the station's hull, marks that seemed to suggest something had tried to claw its way inside. More stations went dark. Then, entire colonies. The pattern became clear. Within 6 months, something was moving through the galaxy's outer regions, something that left behind only empty settlements and those same inexplicable claw marks. The Confederation's finest minds worked frantically to understand what they were facing, but their sensors could barely detect the threat, let alone track it. It was during the emergency session of the Galactic Council that Admiral Creshan made the connection. The grizzled Taurian had fought in a dozen campaigns and had never shown fear, but his voice trembled as he addressed the assembly. "The attacks aren't random," he announced, his 4 eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the affected systems. "They're following the old trade routes, the ones humanity used to patrol." The council chamber fell silent. Veltar felt his blood chill as the implications became clear. "Impossible!" Zefok protested. "The humans were barely capable of defending themselves, let alone—" His words were cut short by an urgent transmission from the border world of Talaxis Prime. The planet's governor appeared on the main screen, his usually composed demeanor replaced by naked terror. "They're here," he whispered. "The shadows between stars. They're—" The transmission cut to static. Within hours, long-range scans confirmed the worst. Something vast and dark had enveloped Talaxis Prime. The planet's energy signature had vanished, as if the world itself had been consumed. It was then that Veltar remembered the human archives they had confiscated during the evacuation. With growing dread, he accessed the sealed files, his authorization barely sufficient to decrypt the heavily protected data. What he found changed everything. The files contained centuries of human records, not of exploration or conquest, but of an endless secret war. Battle reports described encounters with entities from the void between galaxies, creatures that fed on entire civilizations. The humans called them the Devourers, and for over 400 years, humanity had fought them in the dark spaces beyond the galaxy's edge. The records spoke of sacrifice on an unimaginable scale. Entire human fleets had vanished in battles that officially never happened. Generations of their finest soldiers had died in silence, their heroism known only to those who carried on the fight, all to keep the galaxy safe from a threat it didn't even know existed. Director Chen's final message was in those files, recorded just before her departure. "We tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. You saw our weapons and our wars and thought us savage. You never understood that everything we built, every ship, every soldier, every sacrifice, it was all to stand between you and the dark. We held the line for 8 centuries while you slept safely in your beds. Now that line is broken." The message continued, but Veltar's hands were shaking too badly to operate the controls. Through the viewport of his office, he could see the first evacuation ships launching from the planet below. The Confederation's greatest worlds were being abandoned as the shadow continued to spread. In the depths of space, automated human monitoring stations, ancient and forgotten, continued their lonely vigil. But their creators were gone, scattered to distant stars, and their warnings fell on deaf ears. The Devourers, sensing the absence of their ancient enemies, pressed forward with renewed hunger. The galaxy would learn, in the darkness that followed, what humanity had tried to teach them: that sometimes the monsters are real, and sometimes the only thing standing between civilization and extinction is the will to fight, no matter the cost. The last entry in the human archives was a simple statement, written in a dozen galactic languages. "We warned you. We would have stayed. We would have kept fighting. But you compelled us to depart. Now you face the consequences alone." As Veltar sealed the files, he could only hope that somewhere in the vast darkness of space, humanity might hear their call for help. But in his hearts, he knew the truth. They had made their choice, and now they would live or die with it. The darkness was coming, and there was no one left to hold the line.